on the agenda tonight that will precede our committee work. That being said, there are, what, 5 items in the special meeting. We'll start with the acquisition of 204 Virginia Road Hazard Mitigation Grant. Anne Marie, would you give us the background on that, please, ma'am?
Yes, Mayor, I'm happy to do that, and we are really pleased to be able to present to you the appraisal that was recently completed for the property at 204 Virginia Road. This project has been approved by the state and FEMA for hazard mitigation buyout. And the appraisal for the property was based on pre-Hurricane Matthew value, so 2016 pre-October value. And the appraisal came in at $157,000, which is was a little bit more than what the tax value was of the house. And the owners have reviewed the appraisal, and they informed their attorney, who subsequently notified me late last week that they are willing to accept that price as they're willing to sell the property for that price to the town. So I would ask that you approve the acquisition of that property based on $157,000, and I would just ask that it be contingent on us receiving a written offer, a written confirmation. I know it's valid, but the FEMA will want to see something in writing. So you would approve the acquisition based on written acceptance by them. And then the town attorney is already working on all the closing documents that are required. We put in your packet a copy of the conservation easement that will be required to put on the property, and you all know from previous work that that property will forever remain open space. And we do have the opportunity to perhaps to do some stormwater improvements on the property that may help with some mitigation, but that all comes later after we own it. And I did also want to report that the fire department is very interested in using the house as a training exercise prior to demolition, so we'll try to work with them and accommodate them. And then also we'll work with Habitat for Humanity. There may be some fixtures in the house that would be able to be surplused and donated to the Habitat store, but we have to work through all that. So.
Isn't it also true that I think, just for the record, that we get reimbursed for the...
Yes, yes, yeah. Absolutely, Mayor. It's a grant, so we will expend the money and then we'll be reimbursed by the state, 100%.
So once the house is gone, it'll be seeded, correct?
Yes.
And then possibly some other work would be done in the area to ease flooding, possibly.
Yeah. And the state will even reimburse us our labor and expenses for seeding and grading, and they'll reimburse us demolition, landfill fees, all that.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the sale.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the sale. Any discussion?
I'm just tickled we're able to do this. These people have waited long enough, and like everything else that has happened since Julia and Matthew, it has been the slowest road.
It's so slow.
These people and people all over eastern North Carolina have had to take. So I'm glad it's over and done with for these people anyhow.
Anyone else?
I'm glad it's done.
Where are these people now?
They are renting at a unit in Edenton, so they're paying rent and they're paying mortgage on this house and flood insurance on this vacant house, so they've really endured tremendous hardship.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, that carries. Next one, please, ma'am. Capital project budget ordinance.
Yes, sir. Council will recall from our previous meetings, reviewing all of our capital projects, that we recently were approved by the state for a $1.3 million 20-year low-interest loan to rehabilitate our water supply wells and also to construct a new ground storage tank at the Beaver Hill Water Treatment Plant. The project, per the state, has set various milestones that we have to meet, and the next milestone is the completion of an engineering report that will detail all of the components of the rehab work and the ground storage tank construction work. And that engineering report has to be submitted to the state for their review and approval by early December. So we're asking the council to go ahead and adopt the project budget ordinance, and that way we can begin incurring engineering fees and expenses for the project. So we ask that council adopt the budget ordinance as presented.
Okay, any further questions of the management report? Chair would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to proceed with the budget ordinance. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Okay, next, declaration of intent to reimburse.
Mayor, this pertains to the capital budget ordinance. If you will adopt this resolution that we've prepared for you, it declares your intent to reimburse yourself or reimburse the town the expenses that you will spend on the engineering fees prior to receiving the proceeds of the loan. And this is an IRS requirement, and so we want to make sure that for the audit and then also for the LGC that they know up front that when the town does receive the proceeds of the loan, automatically it's anticipated that $104,000 will be reimbursed back to the town, because that's what you would have spent prior to receiving the actual proceeds. So we ask that you adopt this resolution, Mayor.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments?
Nice to be able to get your money back.
Yeah. So we're reimbursed when the loan proceeds are approved, not after it's built.
Correct, yes.
Good. Okay, I like that. All right, further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. All right, next item.
And Mayor, this also pertains to this project, and we have presented to you the engineering services agreement from Stroud Engineering. They are the engineers that have been helping us with our water supply system improvements. They wrote the grant, or wrote the grant/loan application that was funded as a loan, and they're on board and ready to proceed with the engineering report that's needed for the next phase of the project. So we're asking the council to approve an engineering services agreement with Stroud Engineering for the engineering work associated with the project. And this is the expense that you'll be reimbursed for when the loan is approved.
Questions of the report? Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just one quick question. Stroud, that wasn't something that we had to go out for bids on?
I don't think so. I'll double check and make sure that we're below that threshold for
Okay.
is it the Minnie Brooks Act? But I'll check on that.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. All righty. And next we have a report from our police department relative to the Edenton Schools anti-bullying campaign. Chief? Well,
Good evening,
share with you an initiative that Sergeant Laura Williams, Laura if you'll stand, I want to recognize her. I had a vision of my staff engaging with the youth in Edenton school system on different initiatives. And Laura grabbed the anti-bullying. October 1st, if you didn't know, is anti-bullying day, known around the world. And when I tell you that Sergeant Wilson grabbed me by the horn, she grabbed the bull by the horn. She reached out to the Chowan County Middle School principal and D.F. Walker, principal Mrs. White. She sat down with them. She gave them a vision of what she wanted to do. And they came on board. D.F. Walker is going to have, thanks to Laura, is going to have Judge Leah Harris come out at lunchtime and talk to the kids about bullying. All the kids at D.F. Walker, Mrs. White purchased them a blue T-shirt, and they're going to wear blue T-shirts all day long to recognize anti-bullying. At 2:30, they're going to release probably about 50 or so balloons up in the air, and they're just going to take it to the next level. Chowan Middle School, I'm going to talk to the kids at lunchtime about bullying. We're going to pass out stickers each to the staff. We're able to buy the staff these shirts from the company. Say Student Strong, talking about anti-bullying on the shirts. We also want to pass out different stickers to the kids that says bullying stops here, be a bully, not a bully. We're going to pass it out to the kids at the D.F. Walker School. And we also got the famous bracelets that says stopoutbullying.org. We're going to pass out to the kids at some of the schools. So we just want to partner with the kids, just let them know that bullying is not accepted and it's okay to talk about it. Because bullying has changed. Now bullying these days have gone to the next level. When we was growing up, it was more of the guys or ladies in your face. Now these kids are bullying these kids over social media. And it's really causing a problem. Although we have a statute for that, but I mean, it's really taken to the next level with online, and the kids are sending text messages, so we want to make them aware that, hey, talk to somebody, whether it's the police, a parent, a school worker, a school official, and we partnered up with Chowan County school system to be able to make sure that the school does their part and law enforcement is definitely going to do their part, and together we can squash this bullying. So thank you for having me tonight, and again, I need to publicly recognize Laura for doing an excellent job on this. She gets all the credit, she did all the work, and I'm just glad that she took it and she ran with it, and do we have any questions? And I would love for the council, if you're not busy on October 1st, to come out to the school during lunchtime and have us pass out stickers to the kids and wear your blue T-shirt and come and have fun with it.
Fantastic. Great job, Chief. Laura, thank you so much for taking that initiative and following through with it with the school system. I'm sure it'll be a welcome event and also well received by the parents and the kids who are affected by that kind of behavior. So good job. Thank both of you. We appreciate it. Okay, we're ready now for our regularly scheduled committee meetings, and we'll begin that with Public Works chaired by Councilman Stallings, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. We only have one item on the agenda tonight, and I think it's sort of a hot item. And that's the North Broad Street Road Diet Plan. I don't feel like that's something that we can settle in just a few moments of talking, or something that we need to just send it to council, full council. I think it needs a lot of discussion, a lot of work. I know Councilman Dixon has wanted trees down Broad Street for a lot of years, and it would be beautiful, absolutely, I'm sure it would. But I don't think we've got $300,000 to $500,000 right now to spend on that, with our infrastructure being as it is. And I don't mean this derogatory in any way, and I really don't. But, you know, I have folks come to me every week down the street, telephone calls, at church, asking me about what we can do about the streets. I've not had one single person ask me why we don't plant trees down Broad Street. But I think Anne Marie has prepared for us, and if you will, at this time.
Okay, I I just wanted to go over the cost estimates,
Right.
because that, when DOT presented this project to you at your meeting in early September, you asked them to give you estimated costs of the two options that were being considered. And so, option A, which is the tree islands at midway in each block, a pedestrian crosswalk where there would be opportunity to plant tree islands. So the cost of that option is about $12,800, but that does not include irrigation that would be required. There are approximately 8 blocks from East Church Street to Virginia Road. And that is the area where the pedestrian crosswalks midway each block would be proposed as part of this plan. Option B, which would mirror, remember he showed, Brooks showed you what it looked like in, I believe that was New Bern, yes, New Bern. Trees down the entire block. And I think there was a rendering of what that would look like. Let's see, did we have a rendering? No. I don't think we had a rendering of what it looked like in Edenton. But that option is, as you can imagine, would be quite a bit more expensive, and we're calling that the Boulevard Plan. And that would be trees planted in the middle and the median from East Church Street to Virginia Road. So the same area would be improved that we looked at under option A. But the cost of planting, mulching, bringing in the backfill, the topsoil is much more expensive, obviously, than doing just one tree island per block. And Brooks estimated that would be about $42,000 per block. There are 8 blocks from Church Street to Virginia Road. And these estimates do not include irrigation. Brooks did tell me today that he had a project where it was not identical, but similar in scope and scale to the Boulevard project, and the irrigation for that project was about $55,000. So $336,000 plus $55,000 would be the town's cost for that project. And then we would be required, of course, to maintain the trees going forward. If you choose option A or option B, we also will be required to pay 20% of the engineering design fees. They're going to have to hire an outside engineering firm to do the design work, and that's estimated to cost $150,000. But the state, through federal highway funds, would pay 80%, and we'd be required to pay 30%. So to do option A, you're looking at $13,000 plus the $30,000 engineering fees versus option B. You can see the dramatic increase in expenses.
Quick question.
Yeah, what about grants?
We could see, there are some, it's called that Tiger program, it's a federal program. There may be some, Sam, but we can check into that, some federal highway funds. I'm not sure, but we
Because
can.
didn't Goldsboro and Rocky Mount both got great big grants?
That was
Yeah,
through that Tiger program.
yeah.
So we can
And they paid, I mean, they got like, didn't Goldsboro get some huge amount of money to do
about
it?
millions.
Yeah.
They redid their whole downtown business.
And if we just get on the list, is that right? Is that where so when would this,
Well, what DOT is asking for the town to say yay or nay to the project. And if you say yay, then they're gonna want an assigned agreement from the town, and they're gonna want $30,000 plus $12,000 in hand. And they would sit on that money, that's gonna show our commitment to the project. And the project is not scheduled for like
Anne Marie?
Yes.
With Plan B, would there be a crosswalk at each block so people can cross there?
I think that's right.
Is that correct? Bec-
I think that's right.
Okay.
Explain to me why it costs $30,000 to do a $12,000 job and $30,000 to do a $336,000 job. I mean, $30,000.
The engineering, they don't
Yeah.
think that there was gonna be that much difference in the engineering to design to design the tree islands versus a median down Broad Street. They didn't think that, from an engineering standpoint, it was not gonna affect the project.
Am I hearing there's a stumbling block right now financially with Plan B? Is that right?
Well, that is a decision that you all would have to make, but I think, you know, that given that just what we went through with this hurricane and preparing for the hurricane and looking at bulkheading, you know, not only looking at Queen Anne, there's some bulkheading needs along a little piece of property that we own on the corner of West Water Street and South Randall Street. There's bulkheading needs in Sunfish Park. You know, there's just a lot of infrastructure needs. And, you know, maybe, Sambo, with us committing, if the town's willing to commit to option A, you know, there would be time.
Yeah, that's what I'd love to see, to try to get it totally grant
some
funded.
grants
Yeah.
So that we could modify the project before it's constructed. I asked them, I said, what if, you know, the council went with option A, and then, you know, 5 or 10 years from now, they wanted to do option B. They said you could certainly do that, but that would be all on the town, and that would be very expensive to tear up, you know, what had recently been paved, and create the curbing that would be necessary around the median.
But we'd have 2 years to look for grants.
I would say you probably have at best a year, you know, because then they're getting ready to go to all the permitting and bidding and all that, so.
And suppose we just signed up and then decided not to do it. Do they give us our money back?
No.
Yeah.
Nice try.
Good luck with that. Well, please, if anybody has any more suggestions, or I'll open it up to the whole council, if anybody has anything they need to add to it.
I would love to see us have a public hearing next meeting and just see what people think. Just let the people talk about it, see what their thought is.
I'd like to get something going. If we can go with Plan A and come back, have the funding, a grant possibly, and then go with Plan B. B would might be my favorite, but financially, and I think we have other needs.
You know, it's a beautiful idea, but there's a lot of work that need to be done in some communities around here. There's some communities in my ward that doesn't have sidewalks, still got open-end ditches and stuff. And, you know, Edenton is a beautiful city. People come from everywhere to live here. And I'm still ain't sold on the ideal of 2 lanes down Broad Street.
But if you go up to New England and see some of those little country towns.
That's New England, that's not Edenton.
I know, but they're small towns.
Yeah, but that's still New England, it's not Edenton. It's a big difference.
How far of North Broad Street would this start and come to Oakland?
The tree part of the project would stop at Virginia Road. The sort of road diet project would continue from Virginia Road to Oakland Street or Paradise Road. You can see this, the second photo on the bottom shows you what it might look like.
If we have a public hearing, I think you're gonna have to do a pros and cons sort of thing prior to. Because I'd hate to get in here with no one being aware enough to know the details of the two recommendations. I mean, we'd spend a lot of time just in the informative process. I think it, I wouldn't mind having a public hearing, but I'd like for it to be known to the public in greater detail than we're just going to talk about bike lanes and that sort of thing. For example, the boulevard, you got to make right-hand turns every time you come out of a driveway. I think that's going to be a huge negative on that particular thought. I mean, it would be for me. Plus, as it was pointed out during the meeting, emergency vehicles having to deal with the same sort of thing, not being able to make left-hand turns.
What about 18-wheelers coming down there, will they? They ought to make those turns. 18-wheelers,
Yeah.
tractor trailers.
Well, that'd be a good thing.
Yeah, maybe it would.
I mean, you'd have a stop at the end of every block, so you could turn right and left. I mean, it wouldn't go straight. I don't think anybody's ever envisioned it not stopping, so you had to, I mean, at the end of every street, you'd be able to turn left or right.
Yeah.
And I agree with you there, Sambo, but one of my major concerns, and I brought it up last time, was I don't want a fire truck to have to come out of the firehouse now and make a right turn and go somewhere all the way down Oakland Street to Church Street to be able to come back to get to the 300 block of South Oakland Street. I mean, that really bothers me. Or have to do the same thing to get to the 301 South Oakland Street. South Broad Street. Or North Broad Street. I'll get it right here in a minute. That's the only thing I see that is a negative about having the trees the whole way down the street.
Yeah.
Is those ambulances can't turn in that little circle. They can't make a U-turn in that little circle. I don't believe. And I know the fire trucks can.
Fire trucks, yeah.
And
you could certainly leave the space in front of the fire department open, so they go either way.
Well, you might could, but then what are you going to do? Let's say they leave and have to come downtown, and I'll just use my house since I live on Broad Street. If they've got to make a turn to get to my house to fight a fire, if not, they're blocking up the whole street, which is fine with me. I don't care. You block up anything if my house is on fire, or anyone else's house is on fire. But I mean, that's the one thing that concerns me is the safety issue with this.
I believe somebody ought to investigate some of these towns that got streets wide enough to have a median with trees in it, and bicycle paths and all the other stuff. I just can't believe, I can't see it in my mind that these streets is wide enough to put all of this. Now, seeing is believing, but I can't see it right now.
I think we saw a picture. I think we saw a picture in New Bern. Is that correct, Anne Marie? New Bern has.
I mean, the major benefit for the residents is it really slows traffic. It keeps big trucks off, and it lets people live, on a street that isn't just always being bombarded with traffic. And I think the property values on Broad Street would go way up. I mean, I think the residents would tell you that their houses shake all the time.
So what are those trucks going to do? Come down Oakland? Or
hopefully they just go out. Most of them are coming right from instead of coming through town, they'll go out that way, to out 37 where they ought to go anyway.
But going back to what Councilman Bond said, minus a grant, I don't see how this community could come up with $400,000 to plant trees down the middle of the main street.
I think we'd have to make a grant. I think
Yeah.
we'd have to get a grant for it. I mean, there's no question about that.
I mean, we couldn't do this on our own financially without grant assistance. Anyway,
To follow up on the mayor's comments about informing the public, like if you want to get public input, we can advertise for a public hearing for October 10th. DOT is going to want to know something fairly soon after the 10th. But what we could do is we can probably modify this presentation, put it on the website, and we can list all of the concerns that you all have raised and let the public be aware and, try to give a little mini presentation ahead of time so people are aware of what it is. And I can ask DOT to come to the public hearing in case there are questions that need to be answered by them.
So you're looking at more than two options too, right? You're looking at do nothing.
Do nothing is an option.
And does anybody get a safety person to answer some of those questions? I mean, I think they're valid, and I mean, somebody ought to be able to, say,
You can certainly try.
I don't think you're gonna have much opposition so far as two-laning it and having the bicycle path. I don't see you gonna have much opposition for that. I think the opposition is gonna be spending $400,000.
oh, yeah, I agree with
We don't
that.
have
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
$400,000,
Yeah.
and we have so much more that needs to be done with that $400,000.
But if we can get a grant for that, there's not gonna be for something else. I mean, these downtown grants are a lot of times, or for things like that, and they don't go for others. Like I know what Goldsboro did, it's just remarkable. Rocky Mount did it.
And in the meantime, they're gonna be holding $42,000 of your money for 2 years.
Yeah,
Is that grant in the realm of reality? Is that,
I think it is.
okay?
It's highly competitive.
Yeah.
I can talk to Kathy Davidson and some others to see.
So what's your pleasure? Do we want to set up a public hearing?
Anne Marie, go forward with one more. I think it was one more, maybe two. Yes, one more. One more. There we go. On that one, that's not even an option anymore. Are we not saying that that's an option to have the turn lane? And the only thing that bothers me about the turn lane option with trees is that's not going to slow the 18-wheelers down. And if you're trying to put those trees there and you've got trees on the right-hand side, I could be wrong, but I think those trucks are going to be tearing those limbs off those trees for a long time until those trees that you're looking to on the right are now 13 years old, 14 years old, give or take. Yep. Those trees are about 14 years old now. They were replanted after Isabel. And so you see how the limbs are over the highway now. But if they're in that center, I don't know how we can keep them pruned under that scenario. I don't know how we keep them pruned enough to keep the trucks from tearing the limbs off of them. If you go that route, the trucks are going to continue on because it's not a detriment to them.
We certainly need to do some work limbing up the trees to help improve that thoroughfare. We can do that. And that, Steve, this is still an option. That is part of that plan, the center lane.
That's what I'm saying. If that's still an option, then your trucks are going to still go up and down Broad Street. You aren't going to stop them if that's what you're going to do.
I think one thing we want to ask the state about too is would they reduce the speed limit? Going from
We have places in Edenton right now that trees get old and the roots break up the cement asphalt and push it right up out of the ground. So that might not be a problem for 5 years, but somewhere up the road, them trees keep growing, it's going to cause a problem.
Councilman Biggs, you're saying trucks are still going to come with Plan A. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That little bit's not going to stop the trucks. And if they get to the post office and that little bit has been stopping them, guess what they're going to do? they're gonna turn left and then turn right at, on Queen Street, or they're gonna turn left and, oops, I'm already all the way downtown and now I got to turn right or left on Water Street. But I can see that option not deterring trucks any at all.
We're at an impasse here. I'm struggling for help. Where do we go, Mayor?
I think we get the, presentation worked up and have a public hearing, because we gotta let the state know something by when? October 15th?
Probably not.
So, I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but it would be, once the people who live on Broad Street realize what Plan A is going, how that impacts them, Plan B, how that impacts them, that would give us, as a governing body, that input, rather than us sitting here speculating what they might think. And then we'll go from there. And we can, in that process of getting ready for that, the staff can find out about where grant opportunities may be. And for our benefit.
I'm confident Anne Marie will bring us $500,000 by next meeting.
Yeah. That would be good. That'd be my suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we'll instruct management then to set up a public hearing, get all the facts and figures together and post it on the internet, on the town website, and go from there.
And invite DOT to come to the hearing as well.
Please, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all we have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank goodness.
Next we'll hear from our administrative committee, chaired by Councilman Biggs, please.
Mayor, we have two items on the agenda tonight, and under the first one, as Anne Marie mentioned, that earlier this year we did agree to trade some property to Habitat for, it was a piece of property that was non-conforming, number one, for a piece of property that we can use hopefully later on. And in that agreement, we asked Habitat to build within 12 months. And because of the way that they build here and build in Clemens County, it being for both counties, they don't foresee that they will build in 12 months, and don't really foresee it might not even be within the 24-month basis. And what they're asking is that we remove that little segment from our agreement. And as Anne Marie said, maybe they could, report to us or report to Elizabeth or semi-annually, so that we can make sure that, again, it does stay on their radar and our radar. So I'll open that up to my committee members, and if y'all are good with that, we'll send that on. And
Very much.
Send it on.
all right, we shall do that. And next, well, that was simple. You wish you had one like that.
The hot ticket.
Next, Elizabeth is here tonight. She's going to give us an overview to the amendment to the UDO flood hazard zoning and boundary maps. And I sat in on her meeting last Monday. Was it last Monday? Monday night before?
Right before
Yeah, yeah. And it was a lot of good conversation that night. So, Elizabeth, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Sure. So at your next meeting, you will also have another public hearing on this amendment to the UDO, which is updating your flood ordinance as well as adopting the new modified flood insurance rate maps that the state and federal government have been working the last several years on updating. And there are a couple of new things about the maps. One is that they're going to be digital. So I'm going to say, a website for you guys and for anybody in the public. You're going to be looking for the Flood Risk Information System website, and that is fris.nc.gov/FRIS.
I'm sorry.
Go again.
They made it as difficult as they possibly could. So it's FRIS, FRIS is the acronym, .nc.gov/FRIS. And that website will take you to the digital flood maps that currently exist, so our 2008 maps, which we also have paper copies of here. And on that website, you can look at both the current maps and these proposed maps, 2018 maps, which will become effective December of 2018. I think it's the 21st or 22nd. And in conjunction with those maps, FEMA and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety require that local governments update their flood ordinance. And I believe you've gotten in your packet a copy of our draft, which has been approved by North Carolina Emergency Management and reviewed by their floodplain administrators and subsequently FEMA. So we've gotten the green light from those above us to take it to you all. The planning board looked at it earlier this month, as Councilman Biggs said, and recommended approval. And so next month we will hold a public hearing, which gives the opportunity for public input, and ask you all to both adopt the new maps and approve this amendment to your ordinance. The ordinance itself has very few changes. There are a couple, and next month at your meeting, Kent Pierce, who's our local floodplain administrator as well as building inspector, will also be in attendance and can speak a little bit more specifically about some of the changes. But one thing that is probably the most significant change is that we're proposing to include a non-conversion agreement, which basically requires a property owner to sign a statement when they purchase a property or construct a property in the flood zone that they are aware of the prohibition on enclosing that ground floor space and using it for residential purposes. And then that's going to transfer with the property, so a subsequent owner would then also be aware that they're not supposed to do that.
That's a good idea.
And Kent can talk a little bit more specifically about that, but that's probably the most significant change in the ordinance. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our town waterfront is actually going to be reduced in its flood hazard area. There will be a lot of homes that will be coming out, and some that the category that they're in will be reduced. So that would result in a cost savings for those folks when they purchase their flood insurance. Some will no longer be required to by their mortgage company. Some folks, it would just change their category. But as we said earlier, it's probably best practice that if you're in the flood zone now and you come out, keep your flood insurance. It will just be much more affordable. So those are kind of the takeaways, and we'll have hopefully more detail, but maybe not much more length next month.
Curiosity question,
Yes, sir.
and maybe, who is it? Kent?
Kent.
Okay. If I sign that statement and build something under there anyway, does that cancel the whole policy or just damage to what I did underneath the house?
That would be a great question for Kent, because he would be the person that applies it much more often. But the liability then, it's squarely on the property owner. The property
Right.
owner cannot say, I was unaware
Right.
that I was
That I
not
understand.
able to do that.
Yeah, but I don't know if my question would be relative to, does it cancel out the rest of the
benefit
house?
to you.
Yeah,
The rest of the house. Now, I don't know. you know.
Pretty much tell you it would void your policy.
That's what I think
I
too.
think that's what it is.
That's right, we have an insurance expert.
But that isn't the way it is right now,
No, well, we don't have,
under the old.
we don't have anything that requires the property owner to acknowledge
Right.
that they have been notified that this is in fact the rule. It's
Okay.
the rule, but, there's nothing, you know, that would require the property owner to sign and acknowledge that they've received the information that would be in violation.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Good job, thank you.
Appreciate it. So we will just, this is kind of only, information only, I guess, and we'll have the public hearing on October 10th, is that correct? And then we'll go from there. That's all we have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next, our Utilities Committee will meet, and that's chaired by Councilman Bond, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. We have one item. Engineering service agreement, the Fuel Farm resurfacing, refacing project. I'm going to ask that we put this off until our next meeting. There's some modifications that need to be done. What it is, we are under a 2017 grant, and it needs to be modified a little bit. The town will have to pay 10%. If we don't do the modification to this grant, we'll have to apply for a 2018 grant, and we wouldn't be able to do the resurfacing until next year, maybe in the spring of next year. The modification should be ready for our next council meeting in October, and we can vote on it then, if it'll be all right with everyone. No comments, so I guess it's okay. We'll move it on.
Got a lot of feedback on that. Yeah.
That's it, man. That's all that we
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Let's see. I think that's it, isn't it? Yep. That completes our agenda for tonight. So with that, we will adjourn until we meet again, which will be our regular council meeting on October the, what is it? 10th. Very good. Meeting adjourned.